and the idea of preparing our hearts for revival. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and Sunday morning. When I was a child, Roger, we spent a week, 10 days, 2 weeks in revival. I didn't dare mention to my daddy, I don't want to go to revival. Mama, especially Mama. There was no discussion. You were going. But we in this modern day have kind of reduced it down. If we have special service, it kind of has to be in the middle of the week. I mean, in the end of the week and just the weekend. And boy, So in preparing these messages, and I'm asking God to help me to be considerate and kind, the first message that I have this morning is praying for personal revival. Praying for personal revival. I'm reminded of a little jingle we used to sing. It's not my brother, it's not my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. You've probably heard that. Well, that's what I had to confess to God this week. Lord, it's me. I need a reviving. Psalms 27, verse 7 through 8 is our text today, and I'm going to repeat it twice this morning, now and a little while later. The psalmist, in my opinion, was praying for personal revival when he said, "Hear me as I pray, O Lord. Be merciful and answer me. My heart has heard you say, 'Come and talk with me.' And my heart responds, 'Lord, I'm coming.'" The psalmists need to have a connection with God because the psalmist was in need. The most basic logical definition of revival, and there's a lot of terminology, a prayer is for personal revival is just talking to God. Boy, I heard talking this morning. I mean, if you could have divided those conversations up and, whew. But a person needs to talk with God. It's the communication of the human soul with the Lord who created the soul, someone said. Prayer is the communication of the human soul with the Lord who created the soul. Prayer is primarily the way for believers in Jesus Christ to communicate their emotions and their desires with God and to have fellowship with God. Never has the world been so busy. Busy. And I don't want to get sidetracked this morning, but a revival is a good way for us to slow down and communicate with God. So today let's talk about praying specifically, Lord, revive me. That's where an uplifting of our spirits comes to pass. You can say, Lord, help Brother Darrell to have a revival. Help Sister so-and-so. Help somebody else. But when you come down to the personal revival, prayer is the foundation from which revivals spring. Prayer in every age started revivals. Prayer. Not long ago, Asbury University in Kentucky, Wilmore, Kentucky, had a revival. Now, folks, I closely followed the best I could from afar. Our granddaughter Elena was there. People from all over, not just the town, not just the United States, from all over the world began to migrate into Wilmore, Kentucky. And Elena came through the other day on her way back to Wilmore. And I said, Elena, tell Pawpaw what started the revival in Wilmore, Kentucky. She said, Papa, people were praying. Nobody preaching? No. Nobody singing? She said, we sang, but that didn't what started it. It started with a group of people gathering for prayer. Frank Beardsley wrote this: it's possible to have revival without preaching, without ministers, but without prayer, a genuine revival is impossible. Now, this is pretty sobering to me as I sat at my desk this week and I thought about all these things. Pearson once said, A.T. Pearson, there has never been a spiritual awakening in any country or locality that did not begin with united praying. When you go home today, I challenge you to begin to pray for personal revival. 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, and I've loved this passage for many, many years. Some of you can even quote it. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. Folks, this is personal prayer. This is not a group type praying. This is personal prayer. Individually. I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and restore their lands. I'm sure you're aware of the fact of the condition our world is in today. Part of the blame lies at the doors of the churches because we haven't taken a strong enough stand. Tuesday night's film revealed a lot of things to me. I wish you could have all been there. Leonard Ravenhill said in his book, Why Revival Tarries, no man is greater than his prayer life. Poverty-stricken as the church is in many things, she is the most stricken here in the place of prayer for revival. So as we think about praying personally for revival, we need to understand, number one, that praying is a commandment. Prayer is a part of the foundation of the Christian faith. We all know that we're commanded to pray in the Bible, don't we? 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 23 says, as for me, I will certainly not sin against the Lord by ending my prayers for you. Psalms 32:6, therefore let all the godly pray to you while there is still time, that they may not drown in the floodwaters of judgments. Time's running out on us to get our loved ones in, to get our friends in. Isn't this sobering? But we need to take it just as that important. Isaiah 56 said, I will bring them to my holy mountain of Jerusalem, that is the children of Israel, and fill them with joy in my house of prayer. I will accept their burnt offerings and sacrifices, because my temple will be called a house of prayer for all nations. This church is a house of prayer. But I want you to think of something this morning. Our bodies are the temple of God. My house, where's my house? God's house in here. My house shall be called a house of prayer. Boy, that puts it on us, doesn't it? David Jeremiah wrote this: what we do for the Lord is entirely dependent on what we receive from the Lord. And what we receive from the Lord is entirely dependent on what we are in the Lord. And what we are in the Lord is entirely dependent upon the time we spend alone with God in prayer. If you want to see an awakening, if you want to be revitalized, it's so easy, and I'm guilty as anybody, just to ride along with the tide and do the same thing. We come to church, we fellowship, we have a couple of songs, we have a special. I mean, we just go through and once in a while I try to change things up, but it doesn't always work. What I'm trying to do is to get us out of the norm. That's what revival does for us in our spiritual lives. How do we do that? Matthew 7:7-8 says, keep on asking, and you will receive what you ask for. What are you asking for in your personal life? Keep on seeking, and you will find. Keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. All of this is a personal application. You keep on asking. You will receive. You will find. You knock on the door. The door will be open for everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds, and everyone who knocks, the door will be open. This next 2 or 3 weeks as we approach revival time. I've been in revivals where it would take 2 or 3 nights for the evangelist to be able to get the church kind of halfway interested in what's happening spiritually. We're not doing this just to say, well, we had revival. But I want you to be prepared for revival and to have a different perspective that Brother Dodrell will bring you than what I'm bringing you, and that God could speak to your heart and that flame of fire could be relit. I watched the flowers, daffodils. Is that those little yellow ones? I don't want to misquote here because these ladies will get on to me. But I've seen them come up. Our irises are blooming. How come they don't bloom all year long? Because they go into a dormant state. Whether we want to or not, we become dormant sometimes, spiritually. And we're just lying there. We're going through the motion. I'm still a daffodil. I'm still an iris, but I'm not blooming. That's what personal revival will do for you. Not just revival, but personal prayer. Revivals begin with each of us. Let me repeat our text again, and I want you to grab a hold of this. Hear me when I pray, O Lord. Be merciful and answer me. My heart, you say, come and talk with me. My heart heard you say, come and talk with me. How many of you know that God is always available for you to talk to him? He doesn't say, well, wait just a minute. Harvey's talking to me now. My brother-in-law is the world's worst. I love Keith to death. He's a wonderful brother-in-law. But you be talking to him on the phone and somebody else call in. I don't care how insignificant that phone call may be. He'll say, let me call you back. I got another call coming in. And he means well. He's lonesome. My sister and his precious wife. But sometimes we think God treats us that way. God doesn't treat us that way. He doesn't tell us to hang on. He'll call you back. Jeremiah 29:13 says, if you look at me wholeheartedly, you will find me. The psalmist again in 139:23 and 24. Now here you go. Are you listening? This is personal prayer. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Folks, I've been doing this all week. I thought, Lord, how did I drift to the place of just everything's commonplace to me? I've asked the Lord to point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. James chapter 5, verse 16, the latter part says this. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. Now apply that spiritually to your heart. My earnest prayer, because the Lord, because of his grace and mercy, has made me a righteous person, my earnest prayer has great power and will produce and is producing wonderful results in my life. Why do we need revival? Because we need to be revived. Revival praying involves heart engaged in heartwarming prayer. God's answer to prayer involves our willingness to pray. I can't pray for you. I can only pray for me. I can't pray for wife. I ask the Lord to bless her and I ask God to bless you, but I can't pray for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? The psalmist got so desperate, he said in Psalms 42, the deer longs for streams of water. As the deer longs for streams of water, so long I long for you, O God. I thirst for God, the living God. Mark 10, we read about blind Bartimaeus, who became very desperate. He was aware that Jesus was passing by and that the answer to his need was within reach. So his cries were met with scorn. He cried all the more, Lord, would you touch me? Lord, I'm here, I'm blind, I need your help. Would you touch me? They scorned him and said, leave the Lord alone. But we know what Jesus did. He healed blind Bartimaeus to get his sight back. How desperate are we for a revival in our own hearts? Revival isn't just a fleeting moment thought, but a revival is the cry of a passionate heart that wants more of God. But to pray personally, we need to be persistent in our praying. One day Jesus told the disciples the story that they should always pray and never give up. There was a judge in that city, and he said, who neither feared God nor cared about people. A widow of that city came to him repeatedly, give me justice for this dispute with my enemy. The judge ignored her for a while. But finally he said, I don't fear God or care about people, but this woman is driving me crazy. She wanted justice. How persistent are you with praying? You go home and you pray maybe this afternoon or tonight before you go to bed. Maybe tomorrow you get up and pray. But are you persistent with the Lord throughout the day to come? Lord, I personally need revival. Keep hounding on the door. Keep knocking on the door. Keep asking. Keep requesting from the Lord. Persistently. A little boy was misbehaving one night when his father was trying to get him to bed. His mother had gone out for ladies' night. And the dad had the job of getting the little boy closed down for the night and get him in bed, get his pajamas on. He got the little boy to bed finally, and after a while, he heard a voice say, Dad, I need a drink. Okay, here's the drink. Father goes back to the living room and he hears the little boy, Dad, Dad, Dad. I need to go to the bathroom. As if he couldn't go by himself. So the dad goes in there, helps him in the bathroom. Now Mom was gone. Mom had the rule and the authority, but Dad, this is new to him. He went to work, came home, he didn't have to worry about it. Several times this happened, and the dad became very irritated. And he called up to the stairs to the little boy and said, Son, if you don't get in that bed and stay there, I'm coming up there and you're going to get a spanking. The little boy was persistent. For a moment, it was very quiet, and then the little boy said, Dad, when you come up here to spank me, will you bring me a drink of water? By praying persistently, believers are not trying to get a reluctant to God to answer their prayers, but it's showing that they are very serious about their request. Keep pestering God. Keep pestering God, for He's a Father to you, and He loves you. May we strive to knock on the door of God with all of our heart. Again, I can't pray for you. You have to do that. From the beginning of the Bible to the conclusion, we have absolute stories of answered prayer. It was prayer that opened the Red Sea for God's people to go across. Somebody said, yeah, but the water was shallow. Anybody could walk across it. Then the answer came back, well, it was so shallow, why did Pharaoh and his army drown? It was prayer that brought water from the rock and bread from the sky for the children of Israel. It was prayer that the sun stood still for the prophet. It was prayer that raised the dead. Real revival can only come when God's people pray for an outpouring. These next few weeks as we head up for revival, I want to encourage you. Pray. Pray personally. Pray persistently. Years ago, a friend and I were singing in a revival in Blytheville, Arkansas. Donnie Clemens, I just talked to him on the phone the other day. His church, very big, and offerings to the poor and giving food to them. Well, their building burnt the other day, and they lost all the food and their buildings, and what wasn't burnt, the city condemned, and they need our prayers. But he and I were in this revival, and we sang this song, just keep on praying till light breaks through. The Lord will answer. He'll answer you. God keeps His promise. Do you know that today? His word is true. Just keep on praying till light breaks through. Revival is for us personally. If you have a revival and I have a revival and we're all united, what a difference it's going to make in our hearts, in our church, and in this community. In your families, they will know. So I'm going to be talking about revival in the next couple of weeks as we get right up to the revival. It's important that we participate in the revival, if at all possible. Excuses come by the dozen. You can find them. But it's for your benefit and my benefit. And when the church is united together, we can see the move of God. And all the people said, Amen. Let's stand together. Lord Jesus, we come to you.